So, my name is Jay. I'm owner-operator of Think Chromatic in Grand Rapids, a digital agency that specializes in CGI for product and space. You have to apologize, it's early for me. I've got a 6-month-old and they didn't tell me I was going to be the keynote. Not very simple. So, what I want to talk about a little bit with you guys is how I came to be where I am today. Kind of why I chose Ferris State, the path I took, kind of give you something to reflect on while you guys look into your futures and decide what you want to do with your careers. In your youth, it's very difficult to really determine, to wake up that day and say, yes, this is what I want to do. Your mind changes frequently, you're distracted, especially in this fast-paced world, social media. It's hard to keep pace with the things that are going on around you. And that's actually one of the main reasons I chose and stuck with Ferris State. They helped keep me on that path. I'm often asked, why is school important? Why do you go to college? Why are you wasting your time? I'll hear. It's to keep you honest, and it's to keep you on track. It's going to keep you goal-oriented. You can spend all the time in the world teaching yourself new techniques, new skills, but that social aspect is going to be gone. The push from your professor or your instructor, keeping you organized, learning how to prepare for the real world, getting that internship, which Think Chromatic actually does offer quite often to Ferris students. We currently have 3 employed with us right now. So at the time, when I was deciding to move forward with my schooling, I was going to Eastern Michigan, and I was going into elementary education at the time. I wanted to stay in Michigan. I had a high school sweetheart that I grew up with that wanted to also stay in Michigan, huge family. And I knew at the time I needed to change what I was going to school for. At Eastern, I wasn't happy doing what I was doing. My passion for gaming, actually, of all things, right, led me to scour the web. I'm going to myself, I love gaming. This is what I'm passionate about. I want to find a school that does this. I did find Ferris State, and that school teaches a lot of the things that I was striving to learn and do in my career. I've always had an affinity to art and animation. I drew as a kid a ton. I'd always do like little concept games, board games, played with magic cards. I mean, I was an absolute nerd. I really was. I was a big jock in high school, did sports, all that stuff, so it was kind of a mixed bag, but I really enjoyed gaming quite a bit. Still do, probably more than I should. But what I did discover at Ferris was that the digital animation and game design program was also teaching outside of just programming and game art. They were teaching lighting and rendering and working with different software. And that made me both excited and hungry for what I wanted to do versus when I was going to Eastern Michigan, I was going through the motions, and the motions weren't getting me anywhere. And that I found it was a passion that was actually really missing from my life moving forward. So if I fast forward a little bit, and I'll kind of go back to the career startup, but it's interesting now to reflect on what I do now at Think Chromatic versus what I went to school for. And like I said before, see, I love gaming. I do. It's great. But I learned quickly that I'd rather play those games than actually create them. And again, it's very difficult to figure out what you want to do in life. And you are going to have your trial and error. You're going to fail. You're going to get back up, do it over again. And at the time that I was going to school, Ferris had also been teaching V-Ray. And I'm not sure how many of you guys know V-Ray here or learning it? 2, cool. 3ds Max or Maya? Okay, now we're getting somewhere. And of course, Unreal. Great, awesome. So this was back in 2007, so I don't want to age myself too much here. But I really had no idea that this whole photorealistic world existed. That in the marketing and advertising world, a lot of what we see today is CGI. There were big name companies, you know, obviously developing animations for family, like I'm sure you're very familiar with Toy Story. If you're not, I'm really old. But like Toy Story, it was interesting looking at that and creating objects and space and using the software and the hardware that I was given to start developing really nice picturesque scenery from that stuff. So I tested over time different lighting and shading, building those objects, and you almost watch paint dry at some point when you're messing with lighting and shading. It can really be boring to some, but man, it piques my interest. I love it. So as I began to find my stride at Ferris, I was able to actually find a small studio in Grand Rapids at the time called Battery Studio. And there I was hired on to do 3D work, renderings, and animation for product and space. It was there that I discovered that how photorealistic CGI was used in that marketing and advertising world. And it really opened up my eyes to what was possible with a simple computer and software that's made available now. So it was kind of an odd revelation. Going from that young kid excited to go to Ferris State University to make video games, I thought that's truly what I wanted to do. And the fortunate side is how Ferris incorporates all these different avenues that we can learn from is truly incredible. You guys are absolutely lucky to get that type of guidance there. And I found myself gravitating obviously towards the CGI side for the lighting and the shading. That was something that really began to drive me and get me motivated, going to class every day, learning outside of class, pushing myself constantly. I'm in my mid-30s, I'm already gray. I pushed myself to lots of limits in my short career. So I discovered pretty quickly at the Ferris program, however, that, sorry programmers, but I hate programming. I could do it, but I'm not a fan of zeros and ones and whatever magic you do. I like to make the pretty pictures. And thank you for creating software to do that. It's not my jam, but this one is. So at Battery Studio, I gained a real understanding of timelines, turnarounds, the industry, how fast-paced it was, companies that were doing this type of work. I was able to expand my capabilities in animation for products, conceptual design, brainstorming, graphics, ideas. And at the time, my boss told me that when you're thinking about a problem and you have an idea, don't stick with your first idea. When you stick to the first idea, it's not the best idea. Never think that. So to be creative in this field, you want to use multiple brainstorms. Build your idea up and choose from there. So I stuck with Battery for roughly a year, and I worked with clients such as, you guys might be familiar with Steelcase, whom I have a great history with in my career. Companies like Izzy Design, American Seating, Square One Design, DDM Marketing. These are marketing and ad agencies that are located here locally in Grand Rapids. No, we're in Big Rapids, sorry. So we would work directly with these marketing firms or the internal marketing firms of these companies, and they called on us to develop content, whether it was for a website, whether it was for a brochure at the time. That was the main bread and butter at that point. Um, those images that we created helped them sell their product when they were doing things. So a lot of the business brands, even still today, that are around globally, are still using conventional photography and videography to market and sell their products. Those at the time were the most effective way to sell their products or market their products or advertise their products at a global scale. The problem is that many of these companies have now thousands and thousands of product. And I'm not sure if you guys have noticed or watched the news lately, but big box stores are kind of going away. Toys R Us just closed up pretty much everything. Kmart and Sears are closing stores. These brick and mortar are going away. And the way that we are going to shop for content is going to change drastically over the next several years. So keep that in mind as you guys are going through this program about what you want to do. I'm here kind of to convince you how cool CGI is. We'll get to that point. So we're in this fast-paced world where we want to get this out in front of you as fast as possible, as soon as possible, with every option and configuration available. Well, for a lot of these companies, that comes at a tremendous expense because one, they've got to order the product. Two, they've got to ship it. Three, they got to logistically set everything up, hire a photography or videography team to shoot it, post-product all of the imagery and video that was done, and then put it to market. And that's a lot of steps. And that's a very time-consuming and costly solution. So what's the answer to that? Anybody? Hunter? CGI, right? So CGI is a very cost-effective way, and whether it's through animation and imagery, we're able to do pretty much anything that a company wants to see visually. And then we've also started diving into the Unreal gaming world, as I'll get into, where those two worlds, where my world, the CGI world, and the gaming world are actually coming more together. So when I'm looking at a project, CGI services greatly reduce the transition costs incurred when working. So it's going to save on construction costs, for example. My team will go out and we'll actually photograph some sets that already exist. And the reason we do that is we capture what we call HDR lighting, which many of you are probably familiar with that term. We'll shoot backplates, for example. So things like that can be used to save on costs for lighting solutions for multiple different products. Construction costs, where we actually build space from scratch. So we will look at a napkin sketch, architectural elevations, we might receive 3D CAD data, and we will rebuild everything to make that space a reality. And it's pretty cool. I mean, you guys have seen it, and probably every single day. And I touched a little bit on logistics, right? The time, money, organization, the whole network to bring product to market. CGI is a great answer to minimize that and shrink that. And I can show that to you guys in the process when I get to that. And another big cost that a lot of companies actually don't consider is shipping and inventory. And with shipping and inventory, if you have, let's just say, this chair right in front and 500 different fabrics or patterns and 10 different metal finishes, that company in the traditional photography world would have to order every single one of those seats and shoot them. And that is very expensive. So we can take one scene and do all of those options right at our fingertips, which is pretty incredible. So when advertising companies start up a marketing plan or a campaign, it's their goal to maximize the impression that their product is going to make on their audience. So CGI is huge in that aspect. I'm sure many of you guys, how many of you guys watch TV? I'm sure like everybody here watches TV, right? Almost, unless you're Totally in the dark, I get it. Um, those viewing experiences need to satisfy you guys, make an impact on what you're seeing. And CGI does that. I can call back on several commercials that I absolutely love that were done in CGI, and it makes me think of that brand immediately. Sherwin-Williams. Have you guys seen the commercial with all the paint chips and how they fly around and they're building structure, all of that stuff? Um, you've probably seen, what's her name, Meg, who did the voice of Meg on Family Guy, and the Jim Beam or Jack Daniels commercial. She snaps her fingers and the barrel explodes and there's liquid. I mean, this is all great CGI work that makes you remember that brand, and it creates this impact, and that's what's important about the type of work that we do for these companies, is we need to create pieces of art that enhance the viewing experience so that their brand is more recognized. The other great benefit about what we do is the pre-visualization for business. So think about this for a minute. You guys have an idea, it's a game-changing product, and you want to concept out something for funding or investment. Whether it's a new piece of furniture, a game-changing microwave, whatever. You guys get the point. Getting this out there can be both time-consuming and very expensive. Because one, you have to build up a prototype. Two, you got to spend a ton of time out there trying to market it, going through social media, and CGI can make it very possible. It makes it possible to visualize or test the market before that product's even released. So I'll use Steelcase for an example. They've got a new chair that's going to be released, or they have it slated for fall. They can actually, while it's in the prototype phase or even developed, have a company like ours render this out full CGI. They can print it out in a brochure, put it up on the website, market it on a billboard, anything they want, and they don't even have the thing ready for production yet. So they can, in essence, start pre-selling product before it even exists, which is pretty incredible. You couldn't do that before with just traditional photography. So CGI can also help improve brand identity and credibility. So again, creating that memorable experience, you're going to increase the chances that your company gets recognized and that people come back to it, reflect on it, think about it, talk to it amongst each other, discuss on social media, etc. It bolsters advertising and marketing at whole new levels that was ever really considered before. And it's been interesting watching over the years how this industry has changed and grown. Starting with my career was mostly in the furniture world. But a lot of the schooling I got at Ferris State, as far as the Unreal Engine and game design and thinking about concepts and art, these two worlds, CGI and the gaming world, are coming closer together. Our studio is actually looking toward the future of fully transitioning over to Unreal Studio to handle all of our production, for example. Real time is the absolute future. You guys are probably familiar with virtual reality. It makes me motion sick, but it's cool, but it's not really in my CGI market world, but we do develop virtual sets that users could walk around or view and look into your HTC Vive or your Oculus or Samsung Gear. That technology is further expanding more and more each day. It's really cool. The other one is like mixed reality or augmented reality. I'm sure many of you are familiar with Pokemon Go or something, and that the augmented experience that you get when you're viewing your game or if you're viewing your product. I mean, we're at this day and age where you can just hold an iPad up in front of you and you can put a boat, a car, a sofa, anything you want, and you can visually see it right out in front of your eyes without actually going out and actually seeing the product in space. You can pull up anything, change options, change the color, change the steering wheel, change the finish. I mean, anything is possible at that point. That world's coming reality. You guys seen HoloLens or heard about the HoloLens from Microsoft, correct? I'm not going to be wearing a big $3,000 computer on my head, but you guys can see where this technology is going, right? The way that we're going to be interacting with these products and how we are viewing our experience, whether it is via the web, it's not going to be so much on these screens anymore. It's going to be right there in front of us. There's going to be trigger objects out in the scene. Unfortunately, the side effect of it, we're probably going to be advertised to nonstop in our lives. But that's the way the world's going. And 3D and what you guys do and what you're learning at Ferris State is a big part of that, and a lot of what we do at the company. There is, on our cell phones, coming something called MEMS technologies. And the MEMS technology is basically this tiny little projector in your phone that will be able to broadcast up like a projector on the screen right here. But it can be on flat surface, on the wall, a curved surface, and you guys can touch and interact with that content just from your cell phone, which is pretty nuts to think about. I didn't even have a cell phone when I was going to high school. So that's crazy to me. How quickly, and just touching base on that fast-paced world we live in, how we got to this point. I mean, most of you guys, our parents don't know what the heck they're dealing with or what's in front of them. They're coming to you as the experts now because you're the ones that are growing up with this technology and are experiencing this. So I did have a little bit of a story about Think Chromatic and how it came to be. And I started Think Chromatic with a goal to provide this exceptional creative process that develops very high quality photorealistic CGI for consumer products and space. In my career, I worked for a corporation in downtown Grand Rapids, and it was stale. I did not enjoy it. I was there for a very long time, 7 years, I want to say, and I was given the opportunity at the time, so just to rewind a bit, at this company that was owned, I'll just say it's Custer Office downtown. You guys probably drive by it all the time if you've ever been downtown. It's next to Founders. It's Founders' big on the spot map brewery that I way too much enjoy. I was there, and we were primarily just doing 3D renders and animation for Steelcase. And at the time, I knew there was so much more that could be done with the type of work that we were doing, that there was this next level of achievement that could be made. But it was always trying to get through red tape and obstruction. And why do you need this hardware? Why do you need this software? It was this constant battle. I was given an opportunity about 2 years into it. My boss at the time had said, "Hey guys, I'm going to Steelcase to work in their marketing department. See you later." And it kind of came to a whole complete shock to us at this point. And I decided, I'm like, well, what am I going to do with my career? This was the only place in Grand Rapids. I'm not interested in moving out of state. I really love what I do. How do I fix this? I decided to run upstairs to ownership on the 3rd level and say, hey, I'll find us new business. I'll take on the sales role / CGI artist and open the door to a bunch of new companies. Showcase to them what CGI can do. We don't have to just do stuff for Steelcase. So at the company, we decided to rebrand away from Custer Studio and start up a new company. And we, in the first year, actually put a bunch of effort into marketing and advertising the actual company itself. I went door to door and made cold calls, everything, found as many companies as I could that I felt could utilize CGI. Because the one thing I could see was you go to their website and it sucked. It was bad. Their imagery was bad. You had people that were taking pictures of their cell phone and putting it up there. I mean, we're talking a mess, no consistency. And I would go with them with a solution, and a cheaper, easier solution than traditional photography. And the reason you saw those cell phone pictures and inconsistencies is because photography was so expensive. So I came to them with solutions to do rendering and animation to help sell their product. In the first year alone, I was able to double the sales of that company, and we doubled in size as an employee base. And it was my goal to develop a very fun, open, and collaborative environment for our team while that growth was happening. The problem is I ran into, like I said before, the red tape, the getting approvals, getting budgets, getting all of this stuff to move forward and push the technologies, push the limits, get better. And that wasn't happening. So I decided to start up Think Chromatic, develop that fun, open, collaborative environment, and erase all those decisions. I get to make them myself. And today we're a company of 12 employees. We have currently 3 interns that are from Ferris State. We've got another, I want to say it's about 15 contractors that do 3D modeling for us right now, all around the United States. So there's quite a bit of modeling work that we do, which I'll show you guys shortly. But what I did with this company was really try to build it as a family. I wanted to veer away from the corporate mindset and erase all the red tape and be their friend, be their family member. You know, I care about each and every one of my employees, contractors, and interns. It's important to me. It's a goal of mine that we all develop and learn together and grow together. That's the only way you're going to get better. And in essence, really, you should treat your classmates the same way. You are all individually learning new techniques and own self-interests and sharing that amongst each other. I know how hard it is to do, to turn your head away from the phone and have a conversation nowadays, but if you share and collaborate that information, it's going to make you better. It's going to make you smarter. It's going to increase your portfolio, everything. So while I was at the company, the red tape company we'll call it, I guess, I began to develop a business plan. And at the same time I was doing the full-time job, I also took up an opportunity to teach at Ferris State in Grand Rapids. And while teaching at Ferris State, I got to learn a lot of the students and get great experience with that. I taught Photoshop and Illustrator, game texturing. I did that for about 3 years. And at first, when I was developing my business plan, I was thinking that I would run the business at the same time, teach part-time, and continue doing things. Oops, I think I'm hitting a key, sorry. But boy, did things change. I'll get to that. So in spring 2014, I decided to take the plunge. I mean, basically all in, I'm ready to do this. I got my business plan. I'm like, I am going to forecast myself in 3 years doing $250,000 sales, small business scope. Well, that was in 2014. This is our 4th full calendar year, because really I didn't get started until summer of 2014, and we didn't really get rolling until 2015. Fast forward a little bit, and our company's on pace to hit $1 million by June. So we have expanded quite a bit, and I started Think Chromatic with $5,000 of my own money, have not taken out a single loan or line of credit, and built this thing from scratch, completely bootstrapped. It takes hard work, perseverance, but anybody here really can do it if you have the drive and the willingness to put your plans together. So I decided to take this plunge at the company. And at the time, my wife and I were actually, we were attempting to start a family. It's like, well, I'll stay at, big corporation A and work here forever, and we'll start a family, and this is great. I'm doing stuff I love. I know I can continue to grow it, but the crappy part is I know I'm always going to be restricted in the direction I want to push, and that wasn't fun. So unfortunately, we didn't really have much luck for about 2 years. So we felt the decision for me to quit my job and teach part-time and just get the business rolling, that we'd be able to get by. It'd be fine. So I run upstairs, I put my 2 weeks in, and I get a call from my wife. She's checking to see if I actually had the guts to do it. I'm like, yeah, I did. And fate has a funny sense of humor in my life. Pretty funny, actually. So my wife had an appointment that same day to figure out what was wrong, why she couldn't get pregnant. She asked me, did you put 2 weeks in? Yep, I'm doing it. Really? Yeah, about 30 minutes ago, I put my 2 weeks in. Well, my appointment went well at the doctor today. I said, well, that's good news. What's the verdict? I'm pregnant. The heart drop you get from that is incredible, I'll tell you that much. When you're making a life-changing decision to quit your full-time job and start up a new business, knowing you've got a baby on the way, that changes perspective. So you know what? I sat there and I said, YOLO. Let's do this. Let's move forward. So I set out. I stuck to my goal. I built a website. I developed a brand. Started knocking on those doors, basically doing everything I had learned at the other company again and driving forward. The hard part of this was I could not use any of the content that I created over those 7 years at my previous company. I had to start from scratch. That meant creating new CGI assets, new animation, everything bootstrap. I also had to wait out a non-compete for about 6 months. And if you guys ever deal with one of those, make sure you read your contracts. So the rest is kind of history. We're in our 4th full year. We're going to be $1 million company this year, and that's very exciting. It's a huge accomplishment to see that our team has really driven this far and gotten this far. It's very exciting. All right, so I'll go a little bit into what we do at Think Chromatic. And a lot of this stuff is probably going to be very familiar to you guys that are currently at Ferris State. A lot of our process is what they teach at Ferris State. I can't stress enough how much good education you're going to get in that program to go any direction you want to go. You guys have great leadership there, and they are pointing you in the right direction to shape your whole career. So part of our overall process is pre-visualization. And a lot of companies actually don't do this. They'll get a request from, we'll just say Steelcase, and they might have an internal marketing or graphic design department, and they'll send you a DWG top down. They have no inspiration, anything, and you have to go completely off the cuff. You'll build up this whole environment. You think it's the greatest thing on earth, render it out, give it to them. They're like, that's not what we asked for. Boy, that stinks. So I developed a pipeline where we actually do concept design. We will sketch things out, the layout. The nice benefit to this is it gives the artist something to reference when they're modeling stuff in 3D. So the same way in the game design world, in which you have concept art, character art, things like that, I brought and introduced into the CGI pipeline for my company because that made things smoother. That made things more efficient. That cut down on back and forth and in essence saved us money in the long run and saved the client money. In this process of pre-visualization, we also will build up style guides. And these style guides will actually say, hey, throughout your brochure or throughout your brand of images, we are going to use this wall, this floor, these plants, these props, and these colors in this furniture, or whatever the product is at the time. So we'll have our designers in-house that will create mood boards. They'll do the interior design, the layout, and we will present that to the client. And that's gone over very well. So with this little illustration, you kind of see the concept art in the lower left, and then breaks into the 3D stuff, and then your final beauty render. So of course, before this whole stuff gets started, you guys are probably very familiar with the process of getting things modeled or gathering assets, things to review, correct? So you're going to gather all your available reference, the product, including CAD data, high resolution photography and dimensions. And based on the unique features of the product, you guys are going to model or create those components. Hunter, I'm going to point you out because you've been actually there helping us out and you've gone through a lot of this process, right? And typically what this means is really starting with the basic shapes and then working in the finer detail. Now, if we're lucky, there's the engineering world out there where the actual product that's being designed, the data exists in 3D solid data. 3D solid data is a lot different than the data that you guys are probably familiar with polygonal meshes. And that data we're actually able to import, and it is accurate to what is going to be manufactured by the company. So we're able to bring that in, and it actually saves us from actually having to model things. One part of our process, though, was because that AR, VR world has been coming closer together with what we do, is developing a high poly model and a low poly model. And we'll actually bake from the high poly down to the low. We're doing this currently with a big name client that is in residential furniture. We're working on close to 600 different sofa frames right now, for example, and all of these will be driven on the web or you can shoot out in front of you. Normal maps, spec maps, you name it, are baked into this thing and it looks incredible. So in other cases, when there is no photography, at Think Chromatic, I developed a photography studio, where we've got turntables, we have whole lighting setups. We're able to request the product that they'd like rendered, and we'll shoot every aspect of that product. We're doing that with a bunch of kids' toys and props right now. We've got teddy bears, choo-choo trains, books, pop-up books, which are actually kind of more difficult to work on than I anticipated. Baby beads, rocking chairs, cribs, all these different things, rugs. So having the ability, having a photography studio in-house, having somebody who knows photography is amazing. That really helps to get accurate data from for the product. And obviously you guys are aware of modeling, so creating that object in 3D space, we're blocking this stuff out and then adding in all the nice finer details. This was done by one of our lead modelers there at Think Chromatic. We did a little coffee machine. You guys are aware of UV unwrapping. I'm sure you guys all love the unwrapping phase of your work. We do the exact same thing in our process at Think Chromatic for everything we do, especially since we're working that high and low poly process in order to provide the objects for them. So you can see, I don't know if I got a mouse. Can you guys see that? Yeah, that's really, really bad, right? That's rat's nest right there, we like to call that. And then after the unwrap, you get nice, pretty textures that you can lay over this product. We'll also begin by reviewing whether it's the top-down floor plans or elevations, dimensions and reference images. We can block environments out. We deliver what we would call doughboys to the clients, and that's basically just a clay preview of the environment when it's all rendered out. So once the artist is satisfied with placement of a lot of the props and the lighting and everything else, more details added in further, like the wood trim, floorboards, handles, light fixtures. We actually build content that's not even seen in the imagery because that helps make the overall scene more realistic when we render it. So the stuff that's off camera is just as important as what is on camera, and keep that in mind. So another part of that process is the model optimization for real time. I keep mentioning how real time is becoming more and more relevant. So Unreal Studio, if you guys are, or Unreal Engine, you guys are familiar with that if you're in the DAGD program. So we'll render out a high poly model. We actually started working with Artec 3D scanners for a lot of pillows or sofas. They will digitally scan everything. We will get that scan data, re-topo that, build also a low poly, bake from the high poly onto the low poly, and we will photograph the textures to get as realistic as possible for everything. We're able to take something that is 20, 50,000, all the way up to 1,000,000 polygons and bring it under 10,000 pretty easily with the same level of detail, which is what you do in the gaming world. And that's how our stuff's coming closer and closer together. So part of the other process, of course, is lighting. When you light the scene, that ours places digital lights in the 3D space. And lighting is very specific to the product. And when you're looking at a product and how you want to, remember I was talking about getting excitement or making a memorable piece, making it very noticeable, memorable. Lighting plays an important role in that and making sure that the product pops out, stands out, and looks amazing. Then we go into the shading aspects. So you get the materials, the combination of color, the shine. You go into the detail of shading everything. These are all important aspects of getting the client's product correct and accurate. And each input from the texture, whether it's the color maps, the bump maps, the normal maps, spec maps, ambient occlusion passes, we use it all. And we, as a company, actually build up an entire material library that over time we're able to build and reference and use across all of our projects, which is great. Organization is key, everybody. Make sure you stay organized in your stuff. And then we'll take the extra step at TC to make sure there's maybe little scratches or smudges. Nothing's ever perfect. When you're walking around in the real world, even looking at this wall over here, see how many heads turn? None. Cool. Has a bunch of like grime and dirt on it. That stuff exists in the real world. So when you're looking at CGI, you want to be able to your mind says, yeah, that's realistic because those aspects exist. So going the extra mile just to add that finite detail goes a very, very long way. And here's a bad example next to a good example of how we deal with some of our clients in the marketing and advertising world. So we will receive a texture that looks like something on the left. How many of you guys would love to use that texture for your project? None, exactly. So for specialty materials, custom fabrics, wood grains, we will set up in our studio, large swatches, 4 foot by 4 foot of the fabric, and do 3 different levels of detail of photography for these textures. You can see the true text. This is how that fabric is actually supposed to look on the right versus what we were supplied. Pretty crazy. So from these large textures that we create, we do 8K, 4K, and 2K textures based on the application that this thing will be used in. And that way, our textures stay consistent, whether it's through a high poly asset for rendering or a low poly asset for VR and AR. So here's a little texture comparison. The one on the left, it didn't come out too bad, but you can kind of see once that photograph texture is applied, how much more detail you get once it's spread across an object like a piece of furniture. So I kind of touched on all the different applications that 3D CGI can be used in. The big main one, and the reason Think Chromatic exists today, is probably because of photography replacement. Photography replacement is huge. 3D photo composites, obviously the 3D scanning. So when you guys, yeah. Oh, sorry. If I left? Oh wow. All right. HDR backplates, which I mentioned to you guys, high and low poly. Digital draping, for example, if we render this out fully gray, we can 2D map across flow lines on the object to swap out textures on the fly. So you could load up just one single rendering on the web and change out the texture with a tileable texture that we photograph and create without having to re-render every single option, which is pretty incredible. The AR and VR configurators, room planners, of course, product animation. We go through the rendering process. We use passes, wire color passes, because everything we do, we treat it like photography. because that's a very important aspect of our work. We will develop the rendering. We work with all the passes that we render out, and we take it and do post-production. And you have your image before post, and then you have your image after post, where you bump up the contrast. You might change the temperature of the lighting and add a little extra glare. It's probably hard for you guys to see the differences between the two, but little extra detail goes a very long way when you're comparing the raw pass and the final post-production pass. So here's a little Christmas shot from The Office, but panoramic domes, we go out and we'll shoot on set, which I mentioned, and that dome generates lighting, intensity, color, reflections, everything for your 3D model. So I'll show you guys just a few examples of some of the stuff that we've worked on. And we do all products, so not just furniture at TC. We do pool pumps, fencing and architectural, kitchen, bath, medical, dental. We reach a pretty wide spectrum of the type of work that we do. My watch. Do boats. And then we do little fun stuff. So every once in a while, we get to enjoy our creative side. These are actually kind of foreboding when you think about it. Used in your teeth to fill a cavity. So the goal of the client was to create a new, robust, exciting way to sell their product. And they wanted to do something that was holiday themed. This one was Halloween. So of course you have Frankenstein and the whole shebang here with dental rings, which is kind of funny. So this is when we get to really stretch our creative muscles and show off the capabilities that we're able to do in the CGI world. Thank you. I did want to show you guys too, just a couple things that were done over the past year. This was actually a full CGI, or I should say, built-in Unreal environment that was done. We just animated a little camera going through, but everything in here actually can be swapped out. The floor finishes can change, the chair fabrics can change, but at the same time, you actually stop, put on your little VR goggles, whatever you will, and you can look around in the space. It's a little bit harder to control on the laptop up here, so I apologize. Really difficult to control. I was not drinking before I got here, I promise. So that's some cool things that we can build out in the Unreal engine. And then, how do I get out of this one? And then as far as animation goes, we've done just simple white sweep stuff. I'm probably running low on time. Is that okay? Okay, sweet. This is just like your really basic, this is like our first animation at TC. I apologize for the music. This is not our choice. But you guys can see how we take product and try and make it more exciting. I mean, you're taking simple office furniture and you're trying to get people interested in buying it, understanding the different aspects and setups that can be done. So when they're sold, they're getting their customers excited. All right, a little bit of the cooler stuff. So we did a few commercial spots for Owensboro Health out in Kentucky. And these ones we actually work with some audio, and we also filmed.
Owensboro Health is proud to be recognized as #1 in the state for orthopedic care.
Very simple, just an easy transition, but we
because this is where it counts for
and live action film. Did video tracking, merged the two together to develop nice little pieces to advertise for Owensboro. How come the escape key doesn't work on this thing? IT?
Owensboro Health is proud to.
And then we'll go to something that's a little bit more full on CGI. Everything in here is 100% 3D to show how like some of their cabinetry might be put together. We did this for Master Brand cabinetry. So these are used as pieces to kind of tell a story about how the product, how it's easy to install, how it lights up, how everything comes together. And this will be live on the website. This is just another avenue instead of building up this space, building all the product, and then trying to get any form of animation out of it. We're able to recreate all of this just from some computer and software. So yeah, feel free guys, check out thinkchromatic.com. That's what we're about. We do lots for marketing and advertising. Any questions? Yeah. When do I take applications for internships? Anytime. I probably shouldn't have said that.
What are all the programs that you use in your
Pipeline?
Yeah. Thanks.
Sure, yeah. So we use 3ds Max, Maya, Modo, Cinema 4D, Photoshop, of course, Illustrator, After Effects, 3D Coat, Substance Painter and Designer. Am I leaving anything out? Synthesize for motion tracking. Real Flow for water, Phoenix FD for, and V-Ray Corona as our render engines. Yeah, I think I nailed them all.
So just hang on until you have the mic to ask questions. Or if you guys want, you can line up here in front.
You said when you started your business, you planned 3 years to do 250,000, and now you're doing nearly $1 million. How did you even know where to start when you put in your 2-week notice and decided to start your own business?
I didn't. So everything comes with planning, right? Expect for the best, but also expect for the worst. And if you have a backup plan for what you want to do, when you do fail or something screws up, you have option B or plan B, right? To make those changes and adjust, to adapt. I would say that my last company really helped me understand that aspect. I became the team leader over there, as well as the face and sales associate to build up a lot of that business. But at the same time, and what I do now at Think Chromatic is on top of sales, running the company, making sure everybody gets paid on time, art direction, 3D rendering and modeling, animation, I do it all, right? There's not a lot of companies out there that actually do that. They'll have owner A out there has no flipping clue what they're doing when it comes to CGI. And having that experience helped me understand what needed to be done when things ramped up, right? So even though I was planning for, let's say, 50,000, 100,000, 250,000, I had an idea in mind of how this business was going to grow. But I also had an idea in mind for what my backup plan would be and who I would reach out to in case it went beyond that. And when it went beyond that, I had an answer for it. I was prepared for it.
How hard is it to convert a high poly object into a low poly one?
Not hard at all. Oh, I forgot, ZBrush.
So you said you're doing film stuff. Are you guys doing stuff in real time in Unreal right now?
We are in the concept phases of doing things in Unreal, and we actually have our first project where we're actually doing a full world, and there's going to be points all around the world that the user will be able to click on interactively. We'll zoom down into that world, and then they'll be able to play with the lighting, walk around the space. It's actually a very big project that's going to be kicking off. We've also developed in-house concept like boat configurator that was all done in Unreal, that is out in the middle of the water, it floats, you can change things on the fly. So yes, we are. The plans long-term for us is actually transition from your traditional V-Ray, Corona, CPU-based rendering and going full real-time into Unreal Studio.
You talked about how you started up a small family and at the same time as starting your business. How do you find a way to balance those two things?
That is a great loaded question. Let's think about that one. Now I can hear myself, and that's weird. So during that time starting up, kind of try to answer your question as best as possible, you can't plan for a family. You figure it out as you go, right? If you guys are planning on having kids now or in the future, you can never plan. You don't know, especially when you're a new parent. You know, like I said, it's the same way I was treating my business. Expect the best, but also expect the worst, right? You never know what life is going to throw at you, how it's going to turn. You just need to be ready for it when it happens. And you're only going to get that through experience. Like, you can't go through your life thinking that everything is going to be a success. You are going to fail. It happens, and that's okay. And I try to tell that to everybody I talk to. Even if you're wrong, if somebody thinks you're wrong, that is okay. Be open to criticism, be open to making those mistakes, and improve from them. And as you go, you're going to figure that out in life. So balancing it, I figured out how to balance based on, wow, I'm not spending enough time at home. I should probably hire somebody.
So,
Yeah.
so starting your own business, I know there's a lot of fails and doubts. What's the best way that you get past all those?
Oh, man. Okay, some good hard questions. So just speaking on a personal side, there's always going to be doubt in your mind with business. You're always going to question whether you're doing the right thing, the wrong thing, if you're doing enough, if you're not doing enough. It's always a constant battle. When you truly care about something and you know that this is your baby, you just have to adapt, right? Building your own business definitely came with a ton of stresses. Anybody that come up here, I'm in my mid-30s, and I've almost got a full, I know it doesn't look like it from here, but I got a lot of gray hair. It happens from a lot of stress and hard work and dedication to what you do. So, you know, starting up a business is not easy. I didn't go to school, I didn't go for business. I went to school to make video games, right? So there's a lot of work that goes into teaching yourself, especially once you become an employer, somebody who's actually has an HR department, who has rules and regulation that you have to follow by the state. There's tons of employment laws. Michigan's pretty lax, which is fortunate. But there's a lot to teach yourself as you're getting into the business. I mean, now in our fourth year, when I first started, for example, I did not have health and dental, 401k with a 4% match, and salaries. I was paying contractors on a per project basis. And it was an agreed upon term. Getting a lawyer to look at a bunch of other contracts that you might get from clients that you have, to understand what you're reading, to help guide you. You can't do everything on your own, and in a business you have to spend money to make money, and you have to make sacrifices in order to teach yourself to fill the gaps of doubt.
Thank you.
So I'm wondering if you have any strategies for understanding what your client truly wants when you first start to onboard them.
Yes, absolutely. So pull part of that style guide that we do in the process. We also provide them with a questionnaire, right? So that questionnaire will outline what's your goal, what's the mood you're looking for, what's the product, what's your design layout, what's your thought process. We have what we call onboarding, right? So we'll go and we'll sit down with the client, we'll meet with them, get those questions answered, and we set everything up on Basecamp so everybody can discuss on point right there. So everything gets lost in emails. Organization, right? I can't say it enough, you guys. Organization.
And then how much does that change throughout working with the client?
Oh boy. Scopes change all the time. It's just something you can't really control. When you are working on a project, every client's mind is going to change. That's the hardest thing about what we do. We might think something looks absolutely incredible when we do something, but they had something completely different in mind. And if you don't hit that, they can come back and change their mind on you.
Okay, I think I'm going to ask, we got one more question.
What is one of the hardest projects you've worked on?
Oh, I would say the hardest projects that we have right now is probably the biggest challenge I'm going to have in my career. We are working on thousands of assets, thousands of renderings, and some animation in basically a 4-month window. I can thank this year being a $1 million plus year because of that. So that is in the span of the next 2 months, we have around 2,700 images due to the client. We have about, I think I mentioned 500 or 600 some odd sofa frames that we have to do, get scan data, high poly scans, build out the low polys, bake down all of these models, and deliver those to them all concurrently. These all have a June deadline, June 6th deadline. So this is probably the most challenging thing. And I've had to scale up extremely quickly, extremely fast. But I'm familiar with this because I did this back in 2015. I told that story. I said, oh, I'm only going to do 50 grand this year. We did 700,000 within the first full year of business. And I had to find out how to change and how to adapt to that challenge.
So Jay, one last question and then we'll wrap up. As a graduate of Ferris State University, speaking to a room full of a lot of current students at Ferris State University, what advice would you give them? Maybe in reflection, you talked about some of the skills that prepared you for your career.
Yep.
But what if you could have gone back, is there anything you would have done differently, or what advice do you have for them?
When you're in school, and I mentioned this earlier in the speech, how it's hard to figure out what you want to do. At least it was for me. And some people are fortunate and they get right out the gate that they want to do this and they're hungry and passionate. Take time to explore the different avenues that Ferris offers. There's a lot of different ways that you can take your career path through the way Ferris is set up as a program. Do each one of those. Take the time. You are spending the money. You're spending your time. You are there during the day. Just focus. And I know it's hard to do. And I said this before. Like our whole fast-paced social media world is a disaster, really, on our attention spans. And it's really difficult to focus and guide yourself. Talk to your teachers. Like I said, there's a great staff at Ferris that can help guide you. They can see where your strengths are. And that's one thing I did when I went to Ferris was I listened. I asked questions. Never be afraid to ask questions. That's the only way you're going to learn. And I know the faculty there is more than happy to answer those questions for you. So try things, figure out what you want to do, and stay focused. If you think you're going into school to be a game designer or a character artist, really reflect on, are you good at this? Be honest with yourself. Don't try to trick yourself into just getting a degree and that you're going to get a job out there. Your portfolio matters more than anything that is on your resume. That portfolio is the thing that I am looking at when I am considering a job applicant, whether they're going to come and sit down in front of me or not. So figure out what you want to do, stay focused in that, and apply to your jobs or interns with that focus in mind. You are going to have to do work outside of your normal schoolwork to develop a portfolio towards your goal.
Awesome. Jay, thank you very much.
No problem.